Hello and welcome to GM Tips. This is GM Rick here talking with you today, and today's topic is going to be, and Evil Squeegee, you kind of inspired me on this, is how to design your own homemade module or adventure for your players. And there's a couple things I want to look at, and again, this is going to have examples that I've done out of the Paizo Pathfinder stuff. It can be done out of the DM's Guide and the Monster Manual in D&D. It can be done out of any of the monster books or compendiums for any of the other type of systems, as well as using different mapping materials and things for that. Now, I want to recommend at the beginning of this is getting Lone Wolf Development's Hero Labs, and if you're going to do a whole campaign, to get their campaign software. Hero Labs has a lot of systems you can use. It has Mutants and Masterminds. It has Shadowrun, various different versions. It has Dungeons and Dragons, various versions from 3.5 all the way up to 5e. It has Pathfinder. It has a lot of the Kobold systems from Midgard. And it has a lot of other different software on there that you can use for Fate and for Savage Worlds, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. I suspect before long they'll do something with Numenera and with Monty Cook and Cypher System, if I don't miss my guess. That's the nice thing about Lone Wolf, is they've done a great job of incorporating most of the books that you will use for the different systems. So I recommend them for a reason. The one thing that you want to design in your adventure, now again, let's go back to the basics that we talked about before, and these are key basics, okay? There has to be a goal for the players, or a compelling reason for them to go into the adventure. From there, you've got to create obstacles. It could be dungeons, it could be cities, it could be organizations, it could be traps, it could be just twists and turns that the players have to go through in order to accomplish their task. There can be a lot of different things. That's what you're going to design. The character portion and the attempts, that has to come from your players, but you got to keep those in mind and kind of think about where would the characters react or how would they react, and have a basic framework. Now, part of developing the first part, the very first thing is the goal, is you have to sit down and write out, and again, I recommend this. Write yourself a milestone of how long you want to take to create your adventure. It's going to include maps. You may write out comprehensive details on each room or each portion of the place you're going to adventure. You're going to map out any cities. You are going to at least map out some of the major NPCs. And let me show you an example of this. And this comes out of what I did with Carrion Crown. I modified the Carrion Crown in Pathfinder to be much more my own little development. So I used Hero Labs to come up with some NPCs. And as you will see, Hero Labs does a great job of giving you all the information. And they'll let you go as detailed as you want on the different things. This is basically a daemon that they ran into with all the details. Why would you do this? Simplicity. Hero Labs you can take when you design one of these, and you can put it into play mode, which means you can tick on it and take off damage to your monster or NPC, as well as healing. You can do either direction, and you tick in the number, and then you tick whether it's a plus for healing or whether it's a skull for damage. Makes it real easy. Gives you your initiative rolls, your attack and damage for your creature, gives you your skill checks, gives you your stats that you can adjust as well in case there was things done to them by the NPCs. By your PCs, sorry. What that allows you to do is simplify your job as a GM. So some of you will say, well, do I really need that software? It's $20 investment. Yes. Okay. I'm not even going to be impartial about it. Yes. Buy Hero Labs. I used to think it wasn't worth it. What a moron was I. And I'm being real frank. I was a moron for not using it. And to the Lone Wolf guys, I am so sorry I was so moronic to put you guys off so long. You guys do a tremendous job when it comes to that. So you want to come up with a generator that will allow you to generate NPCs really easy, because they're going to be part of your obstacles and interaction. So let's look at the first step I do when I go into creation. The first thing is I map out the world. In my case, I pick an area in the Inner Sea realm. And they have great maps and they have great information on the area. Then from there, I pick a city that I want them to be in. A lot of the material that's written by Paizo has information on those cities. Other systems does the same. If not, give you a real quick clue. Take the settlement thing out of Paizo's website and use it for whatever system you're going to use to make the settlement. Whether it's a sci-fi game, whether it's a modern game, whether it's Cthulhu, it is real easy to write out information and keep in mind major things that are going on. You can also deal with modifiers and put modifiers in there. And you can also come up with things that are based in that system that give you modifiers for a settlement. You can scratch out the Paizo stuff and put in your own. That's the thing I would say. So you want to have what realm are they going to be in, or planet, or setting, or city. Map out the city with all the major NPCs in it. So you're going to take time to go through that, and that's where Hero Labs is going to come into play. You want to give the ability that you can raise levels. Maybe you design different ones for when they're going to counter them when they're at different levels or advancement of their character. That's fine. Easy to pull up, easy to use. I'll give you an example and show you an example of what this looks like on my iPad. I love this stuff. So here comes Hero Lab. Okay, it's booting up. So you can see it's got Pathfinder and D&D 5 SRD, but it has other ones. And when you buy the other ones, those will come up there as well. So it's doing its little thinking thing. Now look. What do we have? We're going to do this real quick, and let me get out of here. I'm going to, sorry, I covered the camera. Let's go back to the portfolio. So let's take a look at all the portfolios that I have. So in here I have my different NPCs. And I can scroll up or down. And you can either put them on your device or you can put them in Dropbox at the bottom. So it's real easy. So then I'm going to pick one. Okay, so I click on it. It'll do its little I'm thinking. And then boom, it goes to the thing. So you got different touch points. So I'm going to go to the character point to give you some information. And this is the basic screen. And on the character screen, you can pick which different material you want allowable for that NPC. You can set your starting level. You can pick classes. And again, mind you, this is for Pathfinder, but same kind of thing for D&D. Gives you any key modifiers and things. And you can put your rolls in there for hit points. It even provides dice that you can roll during the play. So let's go back to play. So I'm going to touch the little thing with the dice at the end. This is the play portion. And it allows you to do things with it. So my advice to people, don't make the job any harder than you have to. Yeah, it's a little bit of investment, but when you're going to GM for your players, it's going to be investment. You're going to invest in books. I've invested probably $2,000 in the GM. I'm a little more exorbitant than most you guys are. But that's part of what I do. So, you are going to map out any major NPCs using whatever program you want to use. That way you have them at your fingertip, and that way when players run into them, you can pull up their information quickly and be able to just role play it through. You don't want to make it hard on yourself. Don't say that this NPC is a 7th level this, or it's this type at this advancement, and then have no statistics, no skills, no feats, no nothing. And try to run it. You won't do well. You will make a huge cluster mess for yourself. Plan it out. Next, after I've got all those things set out, then I put in encounter areas where the PCs are going to, the player characters are going to basically go to gain advancement, as well as find critical items in the adventure story. So in this case, again, Carrion Crown setting, what do? I map out the different areas they can go to. And you can use something like graph paper, okay, if you want. I use simple graphing paper. As you can see at the bottom of these, I provide details. What room numbers and details. What's in there. Because then, if, God forbid, I can't get around to the different things that I've got to make up for them and write out all of this. And you can use a notebook to write it out. You can use Word. You can use whatever's easiest for you to type it up. Do yourself a favor. Unless there's specific class levels in your things that you're having them encounter in a, say, a temple or a space station or a, maybe it's an underground dungeon. In this case, it was underground underneath the Gallows Spire, which is a major landmark in Galarian. You want to just put the page number and the hit points for the creature in your notes when you're writing things up. Do like the people who write the modules do. Why? It saves you time. Now, if there's something unique or specific, you can always do an appendix and refer yourself to the appendix where you put in all the specifics. Or you can say go to Hero Lab or go to something else. I want it there. So you're going to build that together. You're going to put in your major scenery in here, okay? You're going to number your places, and you're going to write up your information. I'd say put a portion like they do in the box where it says description of the room and what the player characters see when they go in. Because it's going to be hard for you to remember every detail of everywhere they're going to go. It just is. Unless you want to make it up on the fly, and even then, you're going to lose details. They'll come back and ask you about that. You're going to go, wait a minute, did I say that? Put it down. And then underneath, you're going to put the details to you about what the monster's going to do, how they're going to react, or the creature, or the NPC, or the encounter, or the trap. You want to have all that at your fingertips. So that way then you know as a GM, and you can read it. And I always recommend, even though you write it, read it the night before. Especially the areas you think they can go. Because you want to be as prepared as possible when it comes to that. The next thing I did, the travel. So the obstacles and travel to get to the place. So say they're wanting to get to the Gallows Spire. What do? I write up an encounter table with what book and what page. Why do I do that? And the challenge rating. So I know how to award them experience, I know how many of them I can roll for, and I know what book to go to and what page. Makes it simple. It's the KISS rule, folks. Keep it simple. Don't make it hard on yourself. That you're having to run around, pull books open to do your encounter tables. Do not do that. I have done it. It is such a major nightmare. And those encounter tables, by the way, are obsolete because they put out 6 more books on creatures. So don't do that to yourself. Write up your own. Yes, it's a little bit of work and prep work, but it saves you in the long run. Then from there, what do? You write in the colorful story that you want to have around it, and you choose the items that you want to give the players. So you're going to give them certain items, but make sure there's a reason why that item's there. Don't just say, oh, you found a potion of this. Or you found this laser rifle. Make it fun. You found the laser rifle in the hands of the long-forgotten corpse of the commander of the space station. You know that Vacuum in Time has taken things out of him, but this was a special item that he was given by his commanding officer to fight off these creatures. So those are things you want to do. Sorry, you'll see a kind of a skip spot, and that's me getting things for the little one. So when you're picking your items, have a story for them. Not so much the minor stuff that they're going to find, but the major things, the plot line. Now when you're doing that, keep in mind, you don't have to give your players, especially at early in their adventuring, powerful items. They're not going to know how to handle them anyways. And you don't want to give them so much power that it outbalances their challenges and obstacles. My players love me and hate me. I'm all about, especially in Pathfinder, I'll give them +1 and +2 items all day long. No problem. They can find those in different places in different dungeons. However, something above that, something like a medium magic item, something that's a relical item, that's tough. And I'm not a believer in giving that stuff out for free. You have to really come over a major obstacle that is a life-changing thing for your character in order to get that. Don't be afraid to put defective or cursed items in. Now, again, you're not trying to kill the player. You're just trying to spice it up a little bit by every once in a while making sure they're on their toes to not just pick up everything they come across. Bad idea. But players do it all the time, and you will teach them as you go to not do such things. I love the things that always take off a finger or two. It's a healthy little reminder that you better have your roguey kind of individual. It can be for any system. It can be your dexterous character, your roguey, your fortune hunter character, always on tap to go through those items that you should not be touching. And sometimes it's fun to watch them lose a finger or two because they don't plan it well. I'm not a sadist, but I do love a little fun and humor and mirth. And loss of a finger usually isn't detrimental, especially if it's not the pointy finger or the thumb. So, put in some unique traps, always. Whether it's a modern system, whether it's an ancient system, traps keep players on guard. It always makes it fun because they're always keeping an eye out for what's around them. And you want to utilize that for fun. Consider the levels of difficulty that they're going to have to roll to disarm that or disable that trap, and then to find it. So first they got to find it. Second, they got to disable it. Mark it on your map. I use X's, and I put maybe even a little letter to tell me what type of trap it is. It's a real easy way for a reminder to you, and you don't have to write up a huge write-up on the trap. You just put a little blurb somewhere saying this type of trap has this to disarm it, and it's this type and it causes this damage, or this kind of poisoning, or this kind of disease, or this kind of state for your character, whether it's a held or otherwise. You want to do yourself a favor and make a trap section and make it real easy on yourself, especially when you're designing a whole module. So when you lay out your module, here's what you're going to have. You're going to have the title of your module. And it's got to be something catchy. So pick what they're trying to accomplish. Pick maybe the major obstacle. And try to come up with a catchy title that comes up with this. Like the Carrion Crown has a couple of them. One of them was a hunter's moon. And why did that come into play? Well, the hunter was the werewolf. And the moon is when they're a werewolf. So you're picking something that's unique. And I'm going to say, guys, I'm going to throw spoilers in here all day long. So if you're hoping not to get spoilers as a player, don't watch this video because you're going to get them. So I love the catchy phrases because it draws the character in, the players. They really want to know more. It's like, what does it mean by this? Oh, wow, there's a werewolf on the cover. That's pretty cool. Where am I going to counter a werewolf? All kinds of things are going on. And you got their creative juices going. So a catchy title. You want to have an introduction that kind of leads the players along the story. So get you a good introduction. After the catchy introduction, and I would say on that, give yourself a couple paragraphs that you can read to your players. You don't want to make it monotonous to where you're reading a book to them. And if you can paraphrase it, that's even better. Just enough that it takes them in and whets their appetite to what the goal is, or what the goal can be. Then you go into the first sections of where they're going to go. What's things in order that they're going to go across. Now, in those sections as you write them out, put points for where if they go off your path of where you think they should go, that takes you to the next section. I notice great game designers do that. They really sit back and they think, okay, Section A is this, Section B is this, Section C, D, E, F, G. That way you've got the options of where they can go. Even if you don't want them to go there, let your players have the freedom to go off the path because they're going to go off the reservation. And be prepared. Each section should be somewhere between 8 to 12 pages for you. One's going to be the maps. So do a map beforehand that you make a copy of without the numbering so that the characters have a fog of war map that they can use when you lay it out. You're going to use, again, maybe your grease map or your grease pens, erasable pens. Sorry, I'm dating myself. And your map, your laminated map that you're going to draw things on. Or maybe you have your scenery that you're going to lay out. But you also want to have a little map handy to them that you can cover portions to that eventually you can give to them that they can have in case they want to go back. Or, God forbid, turn it into their own lair. They could do that. I've seen it happen. And then you're going to have your portion that you keep behind the screen that's numbered. And then you're going to have your information on each encounter with the intros and with it the section that you're going to read with the obstacles that the characters are going to have to face. Don't go overboard. Look at things like strength of the encounter versus where they are. In Pathfinder and D&D, they use the challenge rating. And so the challenge rating is something you take into mind. It's always based on 4 players. All challenge ratings that they put in every book is based on 4. So if you go up, you want to up your challenge rating accordingly. And it has a method or a formula. You have to look this up on how you want to do it. I do it by rule of thumb or playing it by ear because I've played it long enough that I know, okay, if I add 6 of these or if I add a more strong version of what's already there, then I'm good. And then you're going to have your appendixes. Your appendixes are going to be any special magic items, any special non-player characters where you put their full statistics and you want to have them there in the appendix, any traps that are special traps that are common that you're using throughout the adventure, and then any special other items. So maybe it's a spaceship map of a spaceship they buy, or it's a layout of something, or it's maybe some other information that's pertinent to you as the GM. That's the kind of format you want to lay out in. You don't have to, but I like it because it's real easy to get around. And then at the end of it, remember, have side plots and side adventures that they can go in, and that could be another appendix, because players will go off the beaten path to try to get their storyline to match up with what they want to try to accomplish. So always include some material for that. Normal prep time. How long does it take to do a module? It just depends. If it's a simple module, a couple weeks. If it's a really complicated module with a lot of intricate places to go, or it's part of an adventure path, it could take months. So remember, before you run and GM, really lay out the time. Play maybe with somebody else GMing while you get things prepared, because you really want to be prepared when you go in. Some people like doing it on the fly. I am not a big believer in that. I have seen too many times when I've done that, and it has epically fallen down. And players remember that. And remember, players remember you for your really cool adventures. They also remember you for your pretty crappy ones, too. You're not going to be an expert. Get help. Go watch videos on how to design. Evil Squeegee, who I gave props to, is going to do one on the Twitch channel, which will probably end up on YouTube. There's others who will do that and take you through that. Go on to YouTube or ask the designer of the game, hey, is there some places I can go to get some more information or examples on how to do this? And watch the how-tos. I know it sounds silly. I know it takes your time. But you know what? Don't reinvent the wheel when it comes to designing something. Really utilize the resources there for you. It's part of why I'm doing these series for you guys, because I want to really take you through timelines, what it's going to take, stories. Another perfect example, timelines are sometimes great to put in there, especially if events have happened prior to your adventure. You want to have a timeline for that region for characters because they're going to want to know background information. When did things occur? When did that guy murder this guy? When did this person become a ghost? What happened? A timeline chart can take you through that with dates on it. That way the character, when they do some checks of their ability scores, if they know information about the region or what's happened, or maybe you want to go search it out, you can help them with that. Even having a table as a back table of contents or in each section for information gathering is always nice. And depending on the role of the character towards that stat score, you can have different levels of information you can give them on what's going on. And helpful information, especially if they roll like a natural 20 or a full roll like 6-sided if they're rolling 3d6 or if they're rolling 2d6 or d12, you put that highest score plus their modifiers as the most detailed, helpful information without giving away the storyline plot. Some of the little hooks and challenges. But you want to reward them for great rolls. And don't be afraid to award experience for them disarming traps, doing things, overcoming things, gathering information, thinking outside the box. I award normally somewhere a minor amount, not enough to put them up a level or advance them a full advancement, but enough that it gets them some extra things along the way and teaches them, gee, I'm going to keep thinking outside the box because my GM awards me for that. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't just follow the kill it, you get experience. And if they defeat it creatively, and I'll give you a perfect example. If you saw my video where I talked about where one of the guys wrote diplomatic documents and forged them to overcome the sergeant and his goon squad that were coming to search the house and drag them away. He defeated him by sending him away with his tail between his legs and never drew a weapon once. He used his words. I awarded the party full experience, and I awarded him some extra for coming up with that way of doing it. Let me tell you, your players will love you, and the role play goes up. Doesn't always have to be a combat. And combat doesn't always have to be you drew your weapons and beat them up. If you tied them up, if you disabled them, if you disarmed them, if you made them your friends, God forbid, that all is a full award of experience in my mind, plus extra. Because guess what? You thought outside the box. You defeated my way of thinking you would attempt. You came up with something really way out there, and by gosh, it worked. And I always give my players the ability, and do this during your sessions. If they go into your module and do something really cool where they get a full roll, the best roll they can get, let them tell you how they accomplished it and what they did. Don't you say for them what they did. You take it and give it to them and let them write their dialogue. It is fun. They love it. They're high-fiving. They're just out of themselves. So in your designs, allow lots of high-five moments like that to where they can sit there and go, yes, that was epic. Because then every module you write will be epic for them. I think that's it. I've hit a couple things. I've taken about 30 minutes of your time, but I really think this is important. I really believe that the designing of your own module, you really need to take the time to do it. One other point that I say, when I design my squares, put a legend that says what each square is. 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. And you're going to put the legends up in the corners. Like I put information up in my corners to what it is. Do that for yourself. Because that way when you draw it out for them, it's real easy to scale it. And so you want to do that as much as possible. Don't be afraid when you get adventures. So there's some fully adventures you can buy to get the maps that go with them. It is a good thing. Players are visual. And the first visual that they see, and again, this comes out of another, and again, Squeegee, I'm giving you tons of props, my friend, so don't forget me. He came up and showed me on this thing he was drawing out with Roll20 for this special encounter. He made a good point. Players are visual. Don't clutter up everything in your rooms. Give them points of reference that when they look at it, these are critical, important places they want to remember in their mind. Because they're going to devise their attempt based off of what they see in the room. Don't clutter it. Make it simple. There's a couple tables here. However, there's this raised dais over here where this guy is standing in some purple robes, and there's this weird-looking deific creature up here, or kind of visage of a creature. What does that say to your players? That's where I'm focusing. But I'm looking at the tables around me because I might use those in case I want to spring off of one of those to go above this guy and try to take him down, or this woman, or this creature. It is amazing when you give them that kind of visualization. And you always want to do what would be line of sight. Don't tell them everything in the room. Tell them what's in their line of sight directly, which is a cone that goes out. And you remember, it kind of goes this way. As you're looking at a room, that's the way your vision is. Narrow near you, broad when it goes out. So give them that kind of visualization of a room when you're drawing things out. I hope this helps. I hope it was good for you. I hope it was a great spending of your 30 minutes. Again, I'm not the best at everything, but I try to really help you from a GM standpoint to really think of the important things. Things that I wish I would have had when I was designing early on. Go forth and have a great week of gaming, and I'll see you next episode.